Woohoo!
Turn it over to David.
And actually, before we do anything else, we should take a moment and vote in our couple of new members so that we have a record of that. Now, they both are experienced Toastmasters, but Roger and Mike Walsh, Roger Fung and Mike Walsh are both applying for membership in this club, and we're supposed to have a vote on the record, so you can send me a private message through the chat, just saying yes or no. And
David?
we will let them down easily afterwards if they don't quite make the threshold. Yes, Lois.
Okay, I believe Karthik was IMing us or emailing us that he wanted to join even though he hasn't paid.
Okay.
Do you want to vote on him? And also if Jim Barber is interested, as long as we're doing it, do we want to vote on all four at once and then we can collect the applications and the money from those two? It's up to you.
We can, yeah, as long as they all meet the minimum requirement as of being established Toastmasters, I'm fine with, let's get the vote done, and then we can deal with the paperwork later.
Well, let's ask Jim and Karthik. Do you want us to vote?
Of course, it can only be members that can vote.
Right. So if you're a member of this club, please send me a private chat message. There's a way of clicking my name and just sending me a note. And
I'm definitely interested. This is Jim Barber. I've been fighting the flu all weekend, and that's why I haven't gotten the application filled out. But I will definitely do that pronto. Okay. And by the way, if I have to leave the meeting in a hurry, it's because I'm not quite over the flu. My apologies.
All right, very good. All right, that said, send me that chat message, and meanwhile, I want to let you know that this meeting will be recorded. In fact, I recorded those first couple of seconds. Our policy is that we do gather the video. It will be available for replay afterwards. We may carve out some excerpts or some stills to feature in our social media promotion. If there are things that we capture on the video that you want us to destroy forever, let me know, and we can deal with that. But by default, we do record them. So we want to welcome you to Online Presenters Toastmasters. This is a club dedicated to learning skills for better webinars and online events of all sorts. One of the ways we do that is by getting lots of practice, but also by having some special workshops. And next week, we actually have Cheryl Rausch coming to talk to us about how to connect with any audience. And as I mentioned on February 26th, we also have a panel discussion on how to start an online club. So Carol and I were just talking today about how to organize that. We want to thank RingCentral for allowing us to use the technology that we're using right now at no cost. And they do want to let you know that the cloud is taking over all of business communications and RingCentral is winning in the cloud. As online meeting tips, we do encourage you to be aware of the audio. Audio is very important to a good online video experience. It helps if you use a headset or wear earbuds, so you might have to invest in some equipment to help you participate better. Also mute your mic when it's not your turn. And Carol Prahinsky, as our Toastmaster of the day, will have the power to mute everybody, and you can unmute yourself as necessary. You can also toggle your video on and off, but we do want to see you. There are also two different modes to this video where you can have a gallery view where you see everybody, or you can set it to focus on the active speaker. If you do want to become a member, we ask you to come to at least 2 meetings as a guest. And then there is a join button on our site that has the application forms, that has the link you can click to pay online. As long as you have more than 6 Toastmaster speeches under your belt, you can wander on over there and sign right up. If you lack that experience, we just ask you to make a speech of 1 to 2 minutes about why you want to join and what you can add to the club, and ask the board of directors to make an exception. Let's say I wanted to highlight the new multi-meeting role planner that we have on the site and the evaluations tool. I won't dwell on those. Let's go on. Let's do it. Let me hand control of this meeting over to our Toastmaster of the day, Carol Brahinsky. You are on.
Oh, all right. Come here and say hello to my cat. He's visiting. Every visitor is welcome, no matter how long they stay. He might be leaving in just a short period of time. His name is Plato, and it was not my intention to introduce him tonight, but since he's visiting us, I thought I would share a little bit with you. This is going to sound really surprising, but here, there's my cat. All right, I wanted to share him with you because I named him after the Greek philosopher. So when I became a Toastmaster, I was reading a book by the same author as How to Win Friends and Influence People. Why am I blanking on his name? But I was reading that book, and what is that name? It's about public speaking. Anybody? Oh, shoot.
Stephen Covey.
No.
No? Oh, I'm sorry.
Dale Carnegie.
Yeah, Dale Carnegie. You win, Graham. Thank you so much. All right, he just ran. But I was reading that book on public speaking by Dale Carnegie, and in there's a section on whether or not we have the ability to improve our speaking skills. Is it innate, or is it that we can practice and learn? And according to Plato, we can learn this skill. And so Toastmasters, since I was just signing up, had an influence on me selecting the name for my cat. He likes to talk. So anyway, that's the story. Let's get started because we have a full meeting. Lots of people signed up to be speakers tonight. We have 3 fantastic speeches planned for tonight. And today's a special day in the United States, and I thought I would just make mention of that. Norman's going to give a speech on a very famous man here in the United States, Martin Luther King Jr., who also happened to be famous across the world. But I wanted to mention briefly, while I have the time, yes, I know we're tight on time, John Lewis. And if you're interested in reading more about Martin Luther King, he talks about Martin Luther King in there, but I've been reading about John Lewis. Absolutely fantastic book on leadership right here, leadership. And it's called Walking with the Wind. And I also read his other books over here. I've got them listed here, called March. Absolutely fantastic. I read them this year. This one, I mentioned a quick quote. I got to see John Lewis present, and it says, here's the quote: "I believe in action. Dr. King said early on that there is no noise as powerful as the sound of marching feet of a determined people." And I believe that. Now, if you don't know, John Lewis was at the start of the march crossing into Selma on the bridge. So he was one of the top leaders. He was leading the march, and he was attacked as he was trying to get across that bridge. Absolutely phenomenal leader, and he now is a U.S. representative in our House of Representatives at the U.S. level. So with that, let me introduce our helpers today. We have a number of helpers. Counter. Christian, what is your role today?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. My role today is to listen and pay attention to filler words used by our speakers and role players. And at the end of the session, I will deliver a concise report on what I've heard. Over to you.
Thank you. Timer, Graham Carnes, tell us more. Mr. DTM, finally achieved. Yes. Woohoo! Go ahead, Graham.
Woohoo, indeed. Hello, my name is Graham Cairns. I will be your timer, and I will be timing you in 2 ways. One, you will see the timer, which is the official Toastmasters timer, and it will look like this. You'll see the seconds counting down. You'll see a green, and you'll also see a yellow and a red when the times come up. And as each comes around, you'll also hear a ding to indicate 2 minutes, 2.5, 3 if it were an evaluation. And if you go beyond 30 seconds beyond, you'll start to hear a reminder that you should be ending. So, unless, of course, you're at a really crucial part of your speech. That would be rude. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Graham. Graham, just to let you know, I might have some concerns with the color. I'm hoping it shows up on the screen. And just as a note, Morley says he's seeing red all over you. Yeah, that's it. All right. Grammarian and Andy Byrne, tell us more. What's your role tonight?
My role is one of grammarian. This is Andy Byrne. I will listen carefully to the use of your words. Do we actually have a word of the day?
Mm.
Not really
I
see
had one
here.
in my brain and now it's
Uh,
disappeared. Why don't you select
I-
one, Andy?
Civil
I-
disobedience is what was online.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you, Monica. Civil disobedience.
Obedience.
Civil
Okay.
disobedience.
Disobedience. All righty.
All right. Thank you, Andy. You want to continue?
I would say that at the end, I will give a report when called upon, and I'll be listening to everybody on their use of the English language.
Okay. Now be obedient, please. How's that? No? All right. Never mind. Thank you. Thank you, Andy. Our watcher is Jim Dent. Jim, can you give us guidance on what are you doing today?
Yes, I'm going to be the watcher. I'll be watching everybody's videos, avatars, looking for good lighting, poor lighting like my own lighting. I'm under fluorescent light, so I get a green cast. I'll be watching for distractive background motion. So if you got to get up from your seat or do some, turn your video off and it won't be distracting. Then turn it back on when you're back in your seat. So I'll just be watching everything for what's good and maybe what could be improved.
Okay. Thank you so much. Our vote counter is David. David, what's your responsibility?
I will be counting the votes for table topics, speakers, and evaluators. And I think we can let guests vote on that as well. Again, just send me a private chat message with your votes.
Thank you, David. Our chat monitor is Scott Johnston. Scott, can you give us some guidance on what you're doing tonight?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. My role will be to monitor the background chat through the chat function and report to the meeting at the end of the meeting and on what I've found. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I wanted to read about our word of the day, civil disobedience. And Lois, thank you for grabbing that definition real fast. The refusal to obey certain laws or governmental demands for the purpose of influencing legislation or government policy, characterized by the employment of such nonviolent techniques such as boycotting, picketing, and non-payment of taxes. This might be a challenge for us to use in our speeches, but hopefully we'll be able to find a couple people that can incorporate it into our schedule tonight. All right, we have 3 great speakers tonight. Let me introduce our first speaker. Will be John Quick. Our evaluator for his speech is Adrian Williams. Adrian, did you want to read his objectives or not? No? Okay, moving on. John's speaking to is reading from John's speech is from the Speaking to Inform Manual, Project 3, the Demonstration Talk. His title is Wiping Your Animations Clean in PowerPoint. There are many animation features built into PowerPoint, yet we may not always notice them or realize how they can be used to support our presentations. John M. Quick will demonstrate how to use wipe animations effectively in PowerPoint. This is the 3rd project from his Speaking to Inform manual. It is 5 to 7 minutes, and the title is Wiping Your Animations Clean in PowerPoint. Please join me in welcoming John M. Quick. Yay! Woo! Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, guests, and fellow Toastmasters. As Carol introduced, all these features we have built into our software, and yet rarely we even look at them or explore all of them, and probably for good reason. But sometimes we can use some animations. That's what's going to give us all that motion to grab people's attention and to give people a sense of movement when you're using static imagery. So today I just wanted to show you one particular animation you can use in PowerPoint. Let's pull up the PowerPoint. Okay, you should be seeing it now. Oh, I was going to say you may want to pin my video today and then make it as big on your screen as you can, so you'll have a little bit better view as we're going through this. The wipe animation, take a look at this. That's what it looks like. There it is again. Let's look again. Oh, it's so nice. This is what PowerPoint calls a wipe. So what is it exactly? Watch this arrow coming in from your left to your right. You see that? It starts not on the screen. It kind of grows or draws you across as it appears. That's called the wipe. Now, an interesting thing about this, it's not just left to right or just arrows or anything. It can be any object that you want to animate in this way. But we're going to look at why you might want to do this or how you might use it in a meaningful way. I wanted to point out that, watch this, you've got the left to right arrow. That's not the only way to wipe. Here's one that goes top to bottom, right to left, bottom to top. And notice here that I've made the square and I've always animated the arrow in the direction that it's pointing. This is very important. So if you were to do something in a way that your viewers don't expect, it's going to be jarring and very unpleasurable to them. All right, now I'm going to back right out. This is our arrow to work with. Right now it's not animated. I'll show you how do you make it animated like some of the ones you've seen me do today. See, I'll go up here towards the top on the ribbon bar. There's one called Animations. See, I mentioned that there's many of them. As you can see, there are a ton. But you don't need to use all of those all the time. Let's just look at our wipe animation. I'm clicking on the arrow down here. Has to be selected. From there, I can go up here where it says Add Animation, and I'll find my wipe animation right there in the list. At this point, if I click on that wipe animation, it will be added to my arrow. Now what I'm going to open up over here is called the animation pane. This is so we can see all the stuff that we're adding and even modify it a bit. You see there, it has our arrow now over on the right-hand side. I mentioned that you can do this in different ways. You see how right now it says from bottom. I'm going to show you something really wrong. Forgive me. Let's animate this backwards. Watch that arrow now. See how it kind of doesn't make sense. Why? Because the end of the arrow appears first, and then the empty tail appears last. It should probably feel wrong to you, and it would to many people. That's where I mentioned we want to animate things in the way we want them to feel to our viewers. So let's go back to the left. Much better. Because now you see an arrow being created from left to right, the way you probably expect based on the way that arrow looks. Couple other minor features I want to bring up here. If you go over to that animation pane, you can see that there are some options and some timing. You can animate your things very slow, like that one, or you can animate them more quickly, like it was originally. And again, this is another choice based on the kind of feeling you're going to create. I often use fast ones because I'm usually trying to get people's attention and also not make them sit there and watch all day long. Now that you've seen the basics of how to set up one of these animations, remember, I'll review it again. Got to select whatever object you want, head over to your animations pane, add the animation you're looking for. Then from there, if you want to do some other options, you can. Let's take a look at an example. Again, I'm going to go back to the slideshow to show you how I might use this in like a real presentation. One way is to annotate a visual. Like here, suppose we're talking about this photo, maybe looking at the composition. Here I'll draw a couple lines and a couple more, and you get a grid. By having the grid wipe across this way, it gets people's attention a little better and helps them see where you're headed. One other example is this here. Suppose you want to draw a chart, like some data or a graphic that you're using. You might do something like, here's where we were last year at this time. Here's our projection for this year. By building the graph this way and using the wipe animation, you can give people the sense that something's being created, something's being made, something's being layered over time. That's your brief introduction to the wipe animation. Use it